Howdy, folks, and welcome to the Hunting Stories podcast. I'm your host, Michael, and we have another great episode for you today. Today, we actually have someone that I was connected to years ago, and we just couldn't make it work. We got online one time, and the audio was just so bad. I didn't know what I was doing. We just kicked it down the road, and here we are 2 years later, finally connecting with Caleb Stillians. Caleb is a guide in Alaska. He's an entrepreneur. He's just an overall badass. And so I want to thank Caleb for coming on the podcast. It was a lot of fun to hear his stories. In fact, he's got a lot of brown bear stories, some pretty crazy stuff. And so I think you all will very much enjoy this episode. So again, thank you to Caleb. For you guys, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. Beyond that, if you could go ahead and leave us a review on whatever you're listening to, I'd really appreciate that. Share the podcast with one person. And that's about it, guys. Thank you so much. Now let's let Caleb tell you some of his stories. Thank you. All right, Caleb. Welcome to the Hunting Stories podcast, man. How are you?
Doing good. Thank you for having me. It's good to be here, and excited to see what hunting stories we come up with, and I'd like to hear a little bit about some hunting stories you might have, and we'll go
Yeah,
from there.
man. I'll tell you a story because we have a mutual connection. I'll tell you one at some point. Don't let me forget about our friend
Okay.
Bergendahl, man, because I've told this story several times and it's always very funny to me. But Caleb, man, I told you this already, but I'll tell the listeners today. We connected 2 years ago to try and do this, and our Wi-Fi wasn't working, and we decided we'll try and record later, schedule something else, and then I think you ran to Alaska and all over the world, man. You are a hard guy to nail down, but I'm glad I finally got it done. You've been on my list of guys that I really wanted to talk to, so I'm super excited to have you here, man.
No, I appreciate you following up with me because yeah, sometimes I just get the running, and whether it's Alaska, Africa, or somewhere in between, I just hammer down, and it's fun, but sometimes it makes it tough to schedule with people.
Dude, I totally understand. Well, let's take a small step back, Caleb. Why don't you introduce yourself so the people know who we're hearing some stories from today, and give yourself a little love, man. Don't be modest because you do some cool shit.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'll give the 10,000 foot view. Caleb Stillians started guiding in Alaska. I started packing because you got to have a process, right? So you start off and basically the outfitter's uh, lack of a better term, bitch. Like whatever he needs done that he doesn't want to do, you do it. So whether it's packing out a moose, packing out a bear, cutting out log jams, whatever it is, you just go and do it. So you start with that. I started out pretty much right out of high school, got going with that. And then one thing led to another, and I was able to get my guide license up in Alaska. And I've been guiding up in Alaska about between 5 to 7 months out of the year since then. So been blessed to do a lot of hunts, kill a lot of moose, bears, goats, sheep, caribou, all that stuff. So stay pretty busy doing that. It's a ton of fun, and yeah, it's kind of fun because you get going and you don't realize it at the time, but then you kind of look back and you start to realize like I just hunted for more or less 5 to 7 months straight. So
Yeah.
it's like you get to compile, lifetimes of hunting experience in a couple years. So instead of yeah, so that's what's fun. It's kind of turned me into an old man a little bit. I feel like sometimes
I don't know if I go that far,
I
man.
walk around, look at those young bucks over there. So
Yeah, that's great. Well, yeah, so we have a mutual connection. A friend of mine that I met in Texas, and again, I'll tell you the story in a minute here, but Jordan Bergendahl, he came up and like videoed or was a videographer, or what did he do for you up on like Kodiak Island, right?
yeah, no, for sure. So I was running some doing some hunts for a guy guiding them, and the camera guy I had like a family emergency thing, and he needed to go back and do that. So I needed to find a videographer, and Jordan reached out to me on Instagram, and we were talking back and forth, and I was like, well, here's your opportunity. I need a camera guy like ASAP. So flew him up. We went out to so it's Kodiak Archipelago. So you have Kodiak Island, and then you have Raspberry Island, not Hinchinbrook, Fog Neck, and then the next one up. So we were on Raspberry. So
Okay.
Jordan spent, I think it was about 30 days with me, blacktail hunting on Raspberry Island.
Okay.
So it was a ton of fun. We had a few bears come into camp, so it's kind of funny because I remember Jordan, right? So he's new to Alaska, right? So he's not
Yeah.
used to bears. So we sleeping and like getting a good night's sleep, and Jordan's waking me up because he hears a stick fall because we're camping in these big Sitka spruce trees that are like 100 foot tall, and every now and then a branch like dies, is dead, and falls off and hits the ground, so you hear it. So he kept waking me up. I was like, it's nothing, go back to bed, and then did that, and then like probably about 8 days into it, because now Jordan's kind of used to that stuff falling and hitting. About 8 days into it, I'm sitting there sleeping, and I hear something. I'm like, I wake up because when you spend enough time out in the woods camping, it's weird. Your brain subconsciously knows the difference between a tree hitting like it just sounds different than when a bear's coming in the camp because it makes slightly different
Yeah.
noises. So I hear this faint noise, and I wake up. I'm like, damn it, it's a bear. So I don't do anything right away because usually they don't know what's going on, right? So they circle in you, they're trying to figure out what they want to do, and it's getting later in the season. So I hear it again. I'm like, damn it. So I wake Jordan up. I go, Jordan. He's like, what? I'm like, there's a bear coming in the camp. He's like, oh shit. So I brought up, I have a 12 gauge shotgun that I let the camel guys carry if they want to. And Jordan was awesome. So he grabbed his shotgun. I got out with my rifle, the headlamp, and we ended up having to chase the bear off in the middle of the night. So that was fun. We built a little fire, chased the bear off, and yeah, it just kind of kept circling for it was about a while. It was about an hour because it was getting late on the season. So all the salmon have spawned out. So that bear's like thinking about hibernation, right?
Yeah.
Well, he wants to come in. We have food stashed in the tree, but it wants to come into camp and take whatever we have. But
Yeah.
we didn't let that happen. So
Let's
that
get a
was
little more calories before hibernating. That's funny, man. I could see
exactly.
Jordan doing that. I'll tell you my Jordan story real quick, and then we'll actually get into the meat and potatoes of this and let you tell some
Hmm.
actual exciting stories. But this is, I want to say, is a second hunt I did with Jordan. The first one, we were hunting riverbeds in Texas for hogs. He basically long day, didn't see nothing. We're walking out, and right as about to leave the riverbed, bunch of hogs, and he empties his shotgun with double aught buckshot into a hog. Like when it fell, I was like, well, we can't eat any of that, but you can take some cool photos because you just blew him up. But the story I want to tell, and I've told this before, but it's a turkey hunt. So he had access to a pretty sweet little property for his job. It's basically like a work site right on the river. And he's like, a lot of guys hunt it for deer. No one hunts it for turkey. And he's like, there's turkeys everywhere. He's like, do you know anything about turkey hunting? I was like, sure. Yeah, I know a little bit. Probably didn't really know as much as I was telling him, but whatever. I had some decoys. I had a slate call. Like, let's do it. So we go out. He gives me the pin and then the address, and I get there, and I'm sitting there first thing in the morning, still pitch black. And this is telling you how the story is going to go, because Jordan calls me and he's like, dude, I'm lost. And I'm like, what do you mean you're lost? We're going to your workplace. Like, you go here Monday through Friday, 5 days a week. How can you not find this place? He's like, I don't know. The pin was off. And I'm like, yeah, I noticed that, but I got the address. So I was like, I manage and I'd never been here before. Get your ass over here. Either way, we're like half an hour late, maybe 45 minutes late, because he just couldn't find his place of work. Sound like Jordan yet? Either way, we get there, we park. There's turkeys gobbling everywhere, just literally every direction. Obviously not hunted, obviously a safe place for them, and they're feeling super comfortable. But the sun's starting to come up, so I'm like, crap, we're running late. So we just dive in. I have like one of those blinds that's basically just like a 2 foot tall, 8 foot long cloth that you put a couple spikes in, kind of covers you from one direction. So there's a little feeder out there. So I'm like, let's put the decoys by the feeder and let's set up that little thing with a berm behind us. We're pretty secluded here. And we sit there for hours. Nothing happens. Birds, as soon as the sun's up, birds shut up. Not responding to any calls. Just nothing. So, all right, well, we're getting frustrated. So a couple trucks come in, and there's only one road. That road goes right by where we have the decoys. So like, let's go talk to those fellas. And so we're going over there, and while we're talking to those guys, grabbing our lunch, another truck shows up, and he's like, oh, you guys shooting turkeys? And we're like, yeah, we're trying. We've got some decoys up. They're like, well, some turkeys just down the road. We're like, no, those are our decoys. He's like, no, there's some turkeys down the road. And we're like, what? So we kind of go around the bend, look back down the road, and you're right. Like, we'd been there for 4 hours, and as soon as we stepped away, just a really nice Tom just walked in. So I'm like, all right, Jordan, here's the plan. I was like, they drove by them. The turkeys didn't go anywhere. So like, let's drive by them. I was like, I'll sit on your tailgate with my bow, and you just drive right up next to it, and then stop, and then I'll just pull my bow back and whoop, end the game. Like, that's it. And so we start driving. He takes us like the 100 yards it is back to where we were, and he just drives right past the bird and right past our blind to the other side of the berm. And I'm like, what were you doing? Like, our plan was for you to stop right in front of it. I would have shot that bird. And he's like, oh, my bad. Either way, as soon as we go past it, the other gentleman, it's actually a truck full of like Mexican workers. I don't know if they're going to be more polite about it, but that's what it was. They come in and basically chase the turkey off. So the turkey crosses the road into this brush, and they drive up. 4 of them jump out of that truck and then run into the woods after the turkey. And I'm like, what are they going to do? They don't have guns. They don't have arrows. They don't have anything. They're just chasing a turkey through the woods. And I was like, all right, Jordan, well, let's go in there and see what we can do. So we walk in there behind this, army of Mexicans, and I'm pulling my slate call out and I'm making noise. The turkey's gobbling, but we're not seeing anything because it's really thick brush, that South Texas deep brush. Run into a whitetail or 2 in there, but eventually we're like, well, this is dumb. Let's go back and sit. I was like, I got another hour or 2. Let's just go sit. And so we go back to sit in the little blind that we made. And next thing we know, I'm calling every 15 minutes or so. A turkey's all the way back where we parked, like just right where we came from earlier. And it's walking down the road. And I'm like, sweet. Okay. I was like, here's the deal. I taught him how to call because I only had a slate call, and I don't know. I, at the time, couldn't mouth call for turkeys. So I was like, here, I'm going to do this until he gets close. Then I'm going to set this down, and I want you to keep the calling because I have my bow and I can't call with it. So the turkey's coming right in. And mind you, this is 2020, early COVID. Like, we don't really know how close we should be to each other. So we sit 6 feet away because whatever, that's what we're supposed to do. The turkey comes in and it goes right behind the feeder. So I pull back and my arrow falls off the nock. So I'm at full draw with my arrow dangling, and Jordan's looking at me. And I'm like, psst, psst, get over here, man. Get over here. And turkeys don't care too much about noise. They just can't see you moving. But I got into full draw, and I was like, psst, psst, and he realizes what's going on. So he comes over, reaches over, and I'm lefty, so he's behind me, reaches over and takes my arrow, pulls it up, and knocks it back on my string while I'm still at full draw. And I'm like, sweet. But he doesn't let go. He's just holding onto the arrow. And I'm like, Jordan, I was like, I'm going to snap your finger off. Let go of my bow. And he's just holding there, and he's like looking at the turkey. He's just so excited. He just forgets that he knocked it, but he just kept his hand there. And I was like, come on, move, just let go. He eventually lets go, like realizes that I can't shoot. And eventually the turkey puts its head down, pops its head up. I fire and I take its head off with my arrow, and end of the story. But it's just one of those stories that cracks me up, man, because Jordan just it was a day of follies, right? He couldn't find his own place of work. And then we had an army of Mexicans chasing turkeys off through the woods. And then he wouldn't let go. My arrow falls off. And then, of course, he won't let go. It's just a ridiculous story. Funny thing is, I then was about to leave anyways. So he's like, hey, I have to go to work now. You mind if I keep this stuff and hunt the evening? And I'm like, no, go ahead. Just hold on to it. And so he actually, in Texas, you get 4 tags. He killed, I think, 3 birds in 2 shots that evening.
What? That's impressive.
Yeah, it was like 2 jakes and a tom, but they came in exactly like they did for me in the morning. And he just fires one round, 2 of them drop, and the other one's just still standing there. So he's like, all right, well, here we go. And he fires another round. And so he almost filled all of his Texas tags in a 10-second period that same day. It's crazy.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Well, it goes to show. It's like when you first start hunting, your nerves. It's like I remember those days. I started hunting when I was about 12, and your nerves just get so excited, right?
Yep.
And it's kind of funny. You see new hunters like that, and sometimes as guides, you gotta realize that. So you get a hunter, right, and he's on a bear, and he's losing his shit, and it's easy to that you lose your patience with that person because you've been there and you've done that 20, 25 times now. You're like, oh, this is another notch on my gun, right?
Just another day.
To that guy, this is holy cow, I'm face to face with a 10-foot brown bear. He's losing his crap.
Yeah.
And to you, it's just shoot the flag already. Quit shaking. Something that guys do when they get excited, they turn the scopes all the way up. The bear might be 80 yards in front of them, and they turn the rifle scope to 18 power. It's just dude, you're not shooting 400 yards. Dial that fucking thing back.
All they see is brown fur. No daylight.
Exactly. So it's funny because guys even. If it's a new hunt, they get those nerves and they just gotta quit thinking, and it's easy to do that. So it's fun when you take new people out and see that happen.
Yep. That's the truth. But yeah, Jordan was a brand new hunter, had never been out until I took him, and I'd only been hunting for a year and a half at that point, so I didn't really have that much to teach him. But There we go. We each have our Jordan story. I'll have to make sure he listens to this episode so we can all have a good laugh. But let's get into it, Caleb, man. What stories you got for us? Hey, hunters. Have you ever had one of those stories, the ones that you didn't want to tell? The ones that end in failure? Yeah, I've been there. Actually, you know what? The culprit for me usually is bad optics, or worse, lack of using my optics at all. Picture this. I spot a trophy buck, or an antelope, or an elk, whatever it may be. My heart is racing, but the blurry view, or I just can't quite identify exactly what I'm looking at, it has me second guessing. Well, that's where Vortex Optics comes in. With crystal clear glass and rugged durability, Vortex gives you the confidence to take the shot. Don't let poor optics ruin your story. Make every moment count. Upgrade to Vortex and turn your hunting tales into triumphs. Visit vortexoptics.com today.
So I didn't come prepared to this, but let me tell let's do a bear story. So
Perfect.
we're on Kodiak Island this time, and it's me, my buddy. This is going into. I think it's actually it's the same year Jordan came up and walked for me. It's just later in the season.
Okay.
So this is 2021, I think it was 2021, and Jordan just left. I went and did another hunt, and we killed a bunch of deer. Seen some cool bears, and then we were doing like, okay, we're gonna go do one more hunt. So we go over to Kodiak. Granted, it's like 6 below, and the people that
Ooh.
we just had out. Um, Text us after they left because towards the end of the trip they're like, we don't feel too good. Towards the end of the trip they text us and say, hey, by the way, we just tested positive for COVID.
There you go.
On our inReaches, right? So like we just got out and we were like, oh boy, this is not gonna be good because we just spent a week with them, so they obviously got it and started feeling sick when they were with us. So it's 6 below 0. We were having to go get our water about a mile from camp and having to chip through like 6 to 8 inches of ice to the creek to get our water. So it's kind
Jeez.
of miserable. It's super cold. We're
Yeah.
camping in a tent. But there's deer out. Like when it gets cold like that, the deer get the rutting hard. Long story short, day at the end of day one, we all start feeling bad. So there's a Cody, which was the cameraman, myself, and Tyler, and we are feeling like absolute crap. Like the worst, probably one of the worst headaches I've ever had. And it's 6 below. We're in this small 4-man tent, just piled up as sick as can be. Night two. I'm sleeping. Tyler's kind of by the door, and then Cody's over here, kind of by my feet at an angle. And I just hear like what sounds like like bouncy balls coming through campus, making all kinds of noise. I was the first one to wake up. And granted, we have COVID.
Bouncy
We are
balls. You mean
sick as can be.
like a four
Like,
square ball, or like a rubber kids like rubber ball?
like the like the rebel balls. So
Okay.
it's just like, making a bunch of noise, something's bouncing around, like just, not exactly like what a bouncy ball would sound like, but that's what, like if you had two bouncy balls and you threw them down the highway, that's kind of like,
Okay.
just random noises all over the place. So
Huh.
I wake up, I wake Tyler and Cody up. Tyler's by the door. He has his 10 millimeter, so I think he either racked one or it was already loaded, I can't remember. And then I grabbed my 375 Ruger and is right behind him. And one thing that was nice, Tyler was a guide as well, so we were communicating very well. So he's at the front of the door. I have my gun. We both feel like shit. He unzips the tent, shines his flashlight. He's like, I see two sets of eyes looking back at me. He's like, I think they foxes. He looks a little bit more. Oh fuck, those are cubs. And then as
Oh
soon as he sees
God.
that, we hear Mama Bear behind us, right?
Oh
So
no,
we
you're
have
between
cubs
them.
right here. Yep.
Oh.
So we're like, oh shit. So we're like, we need to exit the tent, right? So Tyler shoots 2 rounds into the tree right by the cubs, and they run probably about 20 yards, kind of back and to the right if you're looking that way. So then we exit the tent, and he's, I got my gun, he's got his handgun, and like we can see Mama's eyes. She's sitting there humping and stomping her jaws.
Ugh.
Like, oh
Ugh.
fuck. We're gonna have to, and the cubs were little, so we really didn't have to worry about the cubs because you have what 1 year old cubs, 2 year old cubs, 3 year old cubs, and then the mom kicks the cubs off. So the 1 year old cubs they're not really concerned, and that's what these ones were because they can't attack you. 2 year old cubs can start attacking you. 3 year old cubs, it's really stressful when you get into a situation like this because they all can eat your ass, right? Because the
Yeah.
3 year old cub's a big bear at that point, like not a huge bear, but big enough to you know light you up.
Yeah.
So anyways, we both focused on Mama Bear. Uh, and we're like, hey, get the hell out of here, blah, blah, blah. And anyway, she starts to come. So I'm like, my finger's right on the trigger. I'm like, oh, please, please don't do this because I'm gonna dump your ass. And it's kind of funny when these things happen, it's they happen really fast, but your brain almost slows it down a little bit because you have all these thoughts running through your mind. So she's running at us about before she gets right behind our tent, so about 10 yards from where we were standing at, 15 yards,
Okay.
she bails off and it does the bluff charge and runs to her cubs.
Gosh.
So she was almost dumped. If she would have took two more steps, like going like where our tent was at past it, because she veered off right before she got to it, I was gonna have to dump her ass, and Tyler would have stopped putting rounds with his 10 millimeter into her. But she veered off, went to her cubs, and then they eventually moved on. But I just remember being so miserable because here we are, we have COVID, right? We have this awful headache,
Yeah.
and it's 6 below zero, and we wake up that next morning and do it because you got to sleep with your water bottles, right? To keep them from freezing.
Yep. I've
Well,
done that.
we we dealt with that bear, and I remember I can't remember what the other guys did, but I remember going back in my sleeping bag and just feeling like shit, so I fell back to sleep. Well, when I got out of my sleeping bag, I accidentally knocked my water bottle out, and then I didn't put it back in when I went back to bed. So I
Oh,
wake up the next morning and I have no water. I just remember I was like, screw my life right now because no water, COVID, had to be up to chase off bears, always had to shoot. I was like, this is stupid. Why did we even come out on
you're
this
right.
planet?
That's funny, man. It's funny.
Uh,
That's like there's nothing about that story that is good. It is all miserable things, and here you are laughing about it. And that's what I love about hunting stories, because it's just the most suck you've ever experienced, and it's just like a great memory that you have, man. That's a great story.
100%. So this is probably the worst story I have, like of like things going wrong. So later that week, and I don't think I've told this story. So we shoot a deer, and the deer runs off, and it wasn't me that shot it. We had Tyler had some friends of his come out, so it was a kid. He shot it. He hit it, but he didn't make a good shot. So the kid stays with Cody, which was the cameraman. I go and find that deer, and then instead of just shooting it again, because I have custom loads in my gun, so like I don't know, like $8 a shot. So they're expensive.
Whew,
And I
yeah.
was like, instead of shooting it again, I'm just gonna stab it. Well, again, it's like it's in the negatives, right? So I take my knife and I stab it the first time, stab it the second time, and then the third time I stab it. My hands are bloody, but my hands are so cold I can't really feel much. Uh, that knife hits that rib, and my index finger slides over the
Ugh,
blade and cuts it as deep as can be. Like I remember doing that. I was like, oh fuck. And I look and I can just see everything in my finger, right?
good
Uh, I was
gracious,
like,
man.
oh
And that's the week
crap.
after Get the Bear.
Yeah, so this is the same week. This is all in the same hunt with that bear charging. So
Jesus, man.
this was like a cartoon war. It was like literally the worst. That week just had to be jinxed or something because I've never had so much stuff go wrong inside of a week. So that happens. So I'm looking at it like, oh crap. So I carry electrical tape on my gun, and then I ended up cutting part of my jacket off and taking the insulation, like because it was really deep. Like the scar was huge. Put it on there, wrap it as tight as I can with electrical tape, and then finish dealing with the deer, and then go back to camp. And I'm
Dealing with the
like,
deer, you mean
this.
like you processed the whole deer, or you just finished expelling the deer? Are you ready to elevate your archery game? Summit Bowstrings delivers premium strings for all archers, crafted with bloodline fiber and BCY material stretched for unmatched consistency. Choose from 3 series: Hunter, Competition, and Summit. Each string is built bison tough with unique techniques for extreme durability and performance, ideal for both seasoned hunters and target archers. Experienced strings designed to handle any challenge. Visit summitbowstrings.com and use HSP10 for a 10% discount.
No, no, I didn't process the deer, but I cut it up where I could put it in my backpack
Okay.
and take it back. So you're just coiling it out. Uh, Pretty much accordion the ribs. I don't know if you've seen that. It's like where you
Yeah.
take all the meat off the ribs without pulling the did all that, got back, and then so my buddy is a houndsman, and he's just across the ocean. It's called Wells Pass. So he's roughly 6 miles. You just gotta hop in his boat and come. Well, houndsmen, if you know any of them, like they have to patch up their dogs all the time, stuff like that. And I'm looking at this cut, and I'm like, this thing is deep. Like it needs to be stitched or stapled. So I text Aaron on my inReach and was like, hey, I was a retard and like I totally just like almost cut my finger off.
Yeah.
Like if it would have, yeah. So I was like, I need you to come stitch this thing up. So he ups at his boat, drives over there. This is the like dark, right? So it's like I think this is like 10 o'clock at night now. He comes over. He's got a really cool landing craft. He beaches it, and so I hop on the boat, and Cody's there, and he's enjoying himself, right? He's his nickname for me was Hollywood for whatever reason. So we're like, we're gonna see how tough you are, Hollywood. Like, oh boy, Aaron. So he breaks out like I think it was either peroxide or alcohol or something like that. And I
Something that
mean, my
stung like
cut's
hell.
deep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's just sitting there, and he has this big scrubby brush, right? And he just starts dumping this peroxide and scrubbing deep into the
Oh.
cut while
Ugh.
he's doing it. So instead of, I was like, I ain't gonna scream and I ain't gonna cut. So I just started singing Amarillo by Morning because I was like, Amarillo by Morning, because it hot like a mofo. Uh, so yeah, he does that, scrubs it up, and then he staples it, right. I think it was like 7 or 8 staples.
Sheesh.
Staple. So my finger's fixed, right. So then I wrap it up
Fixed is a
with
relative term for that, Caleb, but okay, sure, it's fixed.
yeah, well, yeah, it's stapled up, so now it
Yeah.
should hopefully heal. So I wrap it, funny enough, with toilet paper to give it some cushion, and then I tape it back up with electrical tape because we still got like 5 more days of hunting. So I finished the 5 days of hunting with my finger like this, and the story gets better, crazy
Was
enough.
that on your
So
shooting hand or your offhand?
shooting hand, so it was
Okay.
my right hand. I don't know if
And it's your
you
trigger
might
finger.
be able to see the skull there. Yeah, so I was like, if I got to shoot, I'll have to shoot with my middle finger. Which you can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a pain. So then that hunt's done. It was good. We got some foxes, got some deer. So then I was like, well, I need to get these staples pulled out. So I'm back in Anchorage, and this guy's an awesome guy. I appreciate him giving the time to try to help me. But I messaged one of the doctors there in town that does. I think he was like a pediatrician. Like he was a kid's doctor.
Okay.
So I didn't have a ton of experience with like, taking staples out and stuff, but I'm like, he's a doctor. He probably has the stuff. So he makes some time. I go there, and he has the staple pullers, right? And he goes to take the first staple out, but he had it upside down. So when
Oh,
you do it upside down, it actually fish hooks the staple back into your finger and then back out. So instead of like open it up like that, right? It shuts it like this. So he
God.
fish hooks, and I'm like, holy cow! And then he's like, well, that was weird. Let me try that again. He does it again.
No.
Fish hooks into my hand again. I'm like, oh, like, because I'm not a doctor, but I'm like,
Yeah.
something that, right? He's like, oh, I'm gonna try to pull this out. So then he grabs a pair of like doctor pliers, and he's grabbing the staple, and he's trying to pull it out while it's fish hooked in my hand. I can just see this cut reopening again, and I'm like, oh, and I was finally, I'm like, hey, I got this. I'm like, Doc, I got this. I'm like, I need a pair of snips because so I give them a list of the stuff that I need. So they end up finding a big toenail clipper. So I took the toenail clipper and snipped the two fish hook staples that are now in my hand into a few different pieces so I could pull them out piece by
Oh my
piece. And
gosh.
then I took the staples. I was
Ugh.
like, Doc, I got this, man. So then I took the fish the staple pullers and did it the correct way up and then pull the remaining staples out and then my finger was good. But that was a rodeo.
Dude, gosh. That guy is probably like, yeah, I'm going to stick to kids. I'm going to stick to being a pediatrician. That's insane.
Exactly.
Gosh, that's a crazy story, man. So, and you were guiding that whole time? Is that why you were out there? Or at that point, were you just hunting with friends? Because it said you had a couple friends.
That That was us hunting with friends.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was all finished up with guiding at that point. We're like, oh, let's do this hunt at the end of it, and it was kind of funny because guiding, everything, pretty much the whole season went perfect. And then the hunt that we decided we're gonna stay one more week and go hunt deer and help these kids get their deer. And I was originally gonna hunt for myself, but then we ended up. Tyler had his friends come out that had this kid, so we ended up kind of funny. I was at the end of it, I was like, why in the hell did I agree to this? Because instead of hunting for myself, I ended up practically helping these kids get their deal. The kids were like so thankful, like not really thankful.
Yeah.
At the end of it, I'm like, I help these brats get deer.
Yeah.
And then I almost cut my finger off, and then I'm like, why did I do this? And I didn't get paid for it. I'm like, why did I do this?
That's
Like,
crazy, man. And how long did you have like the COVID headache and all that? Was it just a day or two, or was that like a tough week of just like struggling through all that?
it was about 3 days, and
Okay.
then we
That's
were
not bad.
back to normal. Yeah, it was early on. I don't know if it was what strand it would have been, but there
Yeah.
was about a day and a half where it was a terrible, like probably one of the worst headaches I've had in my life.
Gotcha.
But after that, it was good.
Yeah. When the bear came in, you said you were in a 4-person tent. Was there just the two of you in there, or were there guys in the tent while the two of you went outside?
No, so there's only three guys total. So there's Tyler,
Okay.
myself, and then Cody. Cody came in after Jordan left to take photos and
Got it.
stuff. So yeah, Cody was overhand to the like left hand side of the tent if you're facing the door. I was on the back hand side of the tent, and then Tyler was sleeping by the door. So then we all got out.
Okay.
Cody was, he was just kind of over there, and then me and Tyler dealt with the bear.
Dude,
So luckily,
that's
luckily
worst case
that
scenario,
sow.
man. That's worst case
I
scenario.
know. I'm so glad that sow like veered off because that would have been miserable if we would have had the dump her because then the cubs were small. They would probably had to put the cubs down and all that stuff. So I'm glad she
Yeah.
didn't fully commit because that would have sucked. That would have made that week even more of a clusterfuck. So that
Yeah.
that did go right there.
Right. I was gonna think like if the tent was between you, she would have destroyed your tent and all the gear inside. Maybe even land on top of it when you guys shot her. Right. And like then it's -6 degrees, and what do you do? I don't know. I don't know what you do in that situation. But that's crazy. Have you had many other close calls with grizzlies? Because imagine this. You're deep in the wilderness. The sun is rising, casting golden light over rugged terrain. Your heart races as you navigate through the backcountry, knowing the perfect shot could come at any moment. This is where memories are made and stories are born. Ultralight rifles are often seen as Mountain West guns, but the Ridgeline FFT from Christensen Arms breaks that mold. This stellar, lightweight rifle is your perfect companion, whether you're in the backcountry or box blind, ensuring you never have to switch between your builds. With its aero-grade carbon fiber barrel and stock, the Ridgeline FFT is incredibly lightweight, yet powerful. Thanks to its innovative side baffle brake, it reduces recoil even on a 5-pound gun shooting magnum calibers. It's like black magic. As a sub-MOA tack driver made in America, the Ridgeline FFT is for those who seek the thrill of the hunt and the joy of storytelling. Picture yourself returning to camp, Ridgeline FFT in hand, ready to share the day's adventures. Head to your local shop, pick one up. You've got to feel this rifle to believe it. Let the Ridgeline FFT be part of your hunting stories and the legacy you pass down.
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Is that number one on the
So
list? The closest
no,
call? No.
no.
Give me another one because I'd
Um,
love to hear another grizzly story. Those things terrify me.
For sure. So we were up on the Alaska Peninsula bear hunting, and I just tagged a bear hunter out the week before with a really nice big brown bear. And then, so brown bear, for people that don't know, you have brown bear and grizzly bear. They're the same subspecies, but brown bears live by the coast, so
Okay.
they like about 2 feet bigger and about 400 pounds bigger for
Oh,
the large ones.
huh.
And then you have the grizzly bear, which lives inland, and a really big grizzly bear was like 10 foot. Excuse me, really big grizzly bear was like 8 foot. A really big brown bear was like 10 foot, and you can get some that get a little bit bigger than that. But that's
Okay.
on average what a
So
big one
same
is for both.
species, just different habitat and diet, basically.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay,
So
that's
over the
cool. I did
last
not know that.
however many thousand years. Yep. So we're brown bears, so they're bigger bears hunting them. So get a really big brown bear, and then I taking this next guy out hunting. We had like 4 days. He was with another guide. Something didn't gel there or whatever. So I was tagged out. I was done. So the outfitter just had me go with this guy. So then that whatever conflict was going on could be done. Guy's a friend with me like now, like good guy.
Yeah.
But we hike this mountain. We get leave camp. We cross this river. Get up, hike this mountain, and we're up on the top of the mountain where we can see a good ways. And I'm like, this should be a good little cruise way for bears. So he sits down a second. I was like, I'm gonna go walk this 150 yards over here just to peek off that side, so we know if we want to go that way or if we want to go this way. So I go off there, and as I'm coming around, you know when you get in the mountains, how you can see like 30 yards in front of you, and then you can see like 400 yards in front of you, but that little dip that happens is all like you don't know what's over there till you get over that ledge.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, I'm walking, and then next thing I know, I hear a rock tumble, right? So I'm like, well, something's coming. So I jack around in, and it's two big caribou and one little caribou, and they are hauling ass, and they run like 10 yards from me, and there's boom, 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 boom past me, and they looking at me like you're about to get fucked up, and they do not slow down at all, like they did not care
Yeah.
about me. So I'm like, oh boy, it's either a bear or a wolves are coming. Had time. There's probably like a 5 to 7 second in between. So I take steps backwards to give myself a little bit more of a cushion. And funny enough, I pull my phone out, right, and I have this whole part of this on video. I can send it to you after this.
Perfect.
So I pull my phone out and I'm like videoing, right, because I'm like, most of the time a bear, like 98% of the time, bears run off when you yell at them, right? But this bear was in kill mode. So I yell at him. Actually, I creep down because I'm hoping the bear just keeps chasing the caribou and just go past me. But as soon as he comes around, I'm kind of crouched down. He stops and looks straight at me. So he's looking at me. So I stand up and start yelling. I'm like, "Hey bear, hey bear!" And then I have it on video. So I'm videoing the bear because the bear's just, probably gonna turn around and run off. And then you see him do this, and he shifts his weight. I dropped the phone because when he shifted, that was actually him like coming, running straight at me. So the phone lands straight up filming. The bear's running, and I remember like pulling this gun up, and the bear's 10 yards away from me coming full out. I have my crosshairs right on his head. And last second, I'm like, maybe I can, because he's running up here. I'm like, I'm gonna send this round and that rock in front of his face. So then all that rock and frag would come up and hit his face. So then he's either gonna die or he's gonna spin around and run off. But if I shoot him in the face, he's for sure dead. And we're in a federal area, so if that would have happened, that would have ruined that guy's hunt because then the feds would have had to come in and
Yeah.
they would have done a little investigation. We would
Yeah.
have been 100% in the rights, but it
Yeah.
still would
And you
have
have video proving it.
took up the yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would took up the rest of his hunt though. So I'm like, I'm gonna send this. Looking back, I'll finish the story and then I'll circle back. So I pull like the crosshairs right down at that rock, squeeze it around. The rock, it hits the rock, frags. You see the bear literally does like a little somersault deal and then takes off running. Because obviously that bullet hit that rock and debris and stuff like splashing in his face. So bear turns around, runs. I pick the phone up and you can see it running around. but that was close because looking back, I should have just dumped his ass because he it wasn't a bluff charge. He was coming, and if that didn't have that effect, he would have ran through me, and then at that point you're gonna hold on to your rifle because usually what they do is they run through you and come back to maul you. So the next shot would have been point blank range of him circling back
Yeah, you on your
to come
ass.
get me or at my
Yeah.
feet.
Whew.
Yeah, yeah, but fun times. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
exciting. And I remember having because like during it, I was super calm, dealt with it, but it was kind of funny. Like, and I still was calm afterwards. Like, it's funny enough because the guy tried to hire me after this happened, because he's seen it all happen from like 150 yards up here on the hill. But because like you top your gun off, right? This is a mistake that I see a lot of hunters make. Actually, is they'll shoot and then they'll go go try to track the animal, but they didn't top their gun off. So like the first thing you want to do after you shoot before you go track or do anything, is take that empty casing off and put another round in it because a bolt action rifle only carries three underneath if it's a Magnum cartridge, three underneath and one on the tube. So you want to have your gun topped off. So I remember pulling that round off and topping it off, and it was a drop plate, so you have to feed it in from the bottom. And I remember I said to myself, I was like, "You fucking fingers work," because there's enough of adrenaline dump
Yeah.
that my spine dexterity was like, "Get in there, you son of a bitch!" And finally
Yeah.
I
I
got it in
believe it,
there. But
man.
I remember being pissed at myself because that adrenaline jump made my fingers just slightly not walk. And I hopped up, ran up the hill. I was like, "Well, that was wild, Mark." And Mark was like, "Holy fuck, I thought you were dead." And
Yeah.
he's like, "Oh." And then I was like, "Dude," I was like, "Yeah, it happens." He's like, "Do you want a job?" I'm like, I was like, "Why?" He's like, Your ability to handle stress is through the roof," because I was like cracking jokes about it. I don't care.
Yeah.
Uh,
What kind of
and I
job
was
did he
like,
offer you? Was he a guide as well, or what was he offering you, like a receptionist job? Like, what was he offering you?
so he had at the time had one of the largest snow plowing operations in New York City.
Okay.
So he was like doing something up there, like a foreman or something, and I was like, I don't want to be in New York City.
Yeah. No.
But yeah, it was fun times. Yeah, because like when those situations happens, you're like adrenaline dump is just awesome. Like it's a ton of fun.
Okay. Well, I don't know if we have the same definition of fun, Caleb, but all right, man. That's a crazy story. I've had a couple folks that have
Yeah,
dealt with grizzly bears on the podcast. One guy actually got attacked, and the only reason he
oh dang.
survived, he had a high frame on his back, and the
Uh-huh.
bear swiped at him at his head, and it hit the frame. So instead of the bear claw hitting his head and basically taking it off, it's tied to his torso. It basically knocked him down.
Was his name Ben?
No,
No.
no, he shot himself in the
Uh
leg later in this story. So I don't know if you heard about
oh
that guy.
dang. So different. No, no. So a different guy. This was a kid. I think he was from Wyoming. And he was a packer. And this was like 2019, and he was packing out a moose, and I was guiding for the outfitter, and he was packing out a moose, and similar story. He had a big Barney's frame, and then he had a moose cord on the back of it, and the bear came up. We thought he was lying because he was a little bit lazy. So like, why is he not responding, and why is he not like getting back? So we thought it was just Ben was being lazy. Um, well, anyways, it turned out that and we even after hearing it, he's like, "Dude, I got attacked by a bear," and this is all like in reach messages, right? And we're like, "Yeah, whatever, Ben, you full of shit." And sure enough, his backpack, the top flap of the backpack, you could see where a bear came up behind him and just whop, and it was this claw marks that cut his backpack,
No
and he
way.
fell
God.
forward, and he had his 10 millimeter. He started shooting behind him. So we don't know if he hit the bear or not. But you're like, well, Ben, you weren't lying because we know you're not that creative to make that backpack look that good, like a bear lap. But yeah, it was kind of wild. So I was wondering if it was the same guy because
No, no.
similar
This
stories.
guy was in Alaska. Him and his dad were out there, tall grass, and like when they realized they were next to the mama bear, it's like 10 yards, something like that. And it came
Mm.
after his dad. He pulled his rifle or his pistol out, shot, pivoted to him, knocked him on his ass. His dad was like a former police officer, so like like wildlife police officer. So his dad had like the perfect
Uh,
training to be the guy there with him. Dad unloads his clip. He's unloading his clip as the bear's on top of him. He ends up putting a round in his own leg. And just a
well,
crazy story. Crazy story. But other than his own self-inflicted wound, he got out of there, pretty good. The bear, however, did not. Like 20 plus rounds in the bear. So, but
yeah, no, that's a pretty wild story.
yeah, right. Yeah, I just saw him on like Instagram or something, and I was like, I gotta talk to this guy. But dude, your stories are phenomenal, Caleb. I don't know. You got any other that have come to mind as you've been telling us the horrors of Alaska?
Yeah, I mean, there's always times where like bears come into camp. Think of a good. So here's another one: is uh, I'm making coffee, right? So it's 4 in the morning, making coffee in my tin. I just got up and went out and grabbed the water that I had hung up on the deal. So I grabbed the water, boiling the coffee in the tin because it's kind of like chilly, windy morning. And I start hearing noise over there, kind of like where the water was. So I think it's his name is Michael. Michael is the hunter, good guy. So I was like, "Hey, Michael, if you're looking for the water, I brought it into my tent." And then next thing I hear what, and the what's coming from inside of his tent
Yeah.
over here, and I still hear the noise like right here, like where the water was hanging out. So I was like, "Oh boy!" So I grabbed my rifle, jack went in, and unzip forced to unzip the rain fly, and I poked my head out with my rifle, and the bear was trying to drag some of our stuff off, and he's like 3 feet, so like he's 3 feet from my face, and my face is 3 feet from him, and I look at him, he looks at me, I'm like, "You asshole," and then he drags the stuff off. So I get out of the tent, and I'm like, I walk over to Michael's tent, and I got my gun. I was like, "Hey, Michael, you wanna?" One thing you don't do is like, you don't want someone to panic. And I didn't know Michael at the time. Just very first time I've done with him. I'm like, "Hey, Michael, you want to grab your gun and come out here?" And he's like, "What?" I was like, "Can you grab your gun and come out here?" Like talking in that like voice
Yeah.
because you don't want to panic someone. So he unzips his tent, and like I can see the bear. The bear's like 15 yards over here, and I got videos of all this too, like from my iPhone. Um,
I don't know how you have the like
and,
mental ability to go, I should record this in these situations, because all I could do is like maybe get my gun and shit myself. Like that's what I'd be able to do.
well, you get used to it after a while. But this is the funny thing, right? Because he unzips his, and this is Michael's a big guy. He's like 6'4", big guy, maybe even taller than that. So he unzips his tent, comes out, and like stands up, right? Oh, stretches out. He's looking at, he's like, "What?" And he doesn't have his gun, and all I do is, "Holy shit!" I'm like, "Yeah, grab your gun."
Oh
so,
man.
so he's got to get back in his tent, grab his gun, and then come out. Like, so yeah. So he gets his gun. He's got a 416 Rigby. I have my 375. Long story short, the bear wasn't running away, so I ended up having to get a stick and like chuck it and hit him with it. And then the bear finally like gives up and looks at me like, "You asshole," and then slowly walks off.
Another
It was
brown.
a
I would assume
juvenile
another.
bear.
Okay, but still brown, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, brown bear. So yeah, so that guy ends up shooting a really big bear like 3 days later. But the bear that came in the camp was like a juvenile 8-footer. So still a really big bear, like would
Yeah.
screw you up in a fight. But wasn't one that we wanted to shoot if we could avoid it.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't, it's not like that big old bear that we were looking for.
Gotcha.
So
What was in
that
the
was
the
fun.
stuff he was trying to steal? What was in there that was like enticing? Was there like deodorant or something that had some aroma that had him interested in that?
Yeah, so on the Alaska Peninsula, it's very windswept, so you don't have any trees, right?
Hmm.
So everything you have is in like bear-proof boxes. So he was trying to drag off one of the bear-proof boxes and get into it.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's not like, some spots on like Kodiak and other places in Alaska, you have those big trees where you can climb up and put your food in the tree. But the Alaska Peninsula, there's nothing like that. You have ten
Okay.
foot alders, and that's it
Okay.
out there.
Okay, that makes a ton of sense. All right. I was wondering what was in that bag, or like what mistake was made, what granola bar was accidentally left in somebody's pocket or something like that. So, man, three
Yeah.
feet. I don't even know what I would do. Okay.
Yeah, it was like right there. I was like, yeah, it's kind of funny because you judge bears. Bears are a lot like people. There's only a few of the crazy crackheads that might stab you, right? And there's only a few bears that
More
are like
recently
that.
than in previous, years, but yeah, I get what you're saying. So you're trying
Yeah,
not to run
and
into crackhead bears.
exactly, yeah. You got to watch out for the ones that are like tweaking that might stab you. But the majority of them fall into like either curious or scared bears, right? So
Yeah.
like just kind of like with people, right? You have some people that are like see anything they don't like, they're gonna run away. You have the curious bear, which this bear was a curious bear. He wasn't acting. I mean, he could have turned aggressive, but he wasn't acting aggressive. He just wanted our stuff. And then you have the bears that might kill you, like that one that was running up and charging. Like he was in kill mode. He didn't care what he was gonna eat. He was hungry. So like that's kind of what you gotta like classify bears, and you gotta judge that really quickly because last thing you want to do as a hunter, especially in the lower 48, is just go around shooting bears that don't need to be shot.
Yeah.
And self-defense. I hear stories all the time of guys telling bear attack stories, and he's like, yeah, the bear was standing up and coming at me. And as soon as they say that, they're full of shit because a bear doesn't attack you by standing up, right? When a bear stands up on its hind legs, it's smelling, trying to figure out what's going on. It's not attacking you. If the bear was head down, it was pinned back, running at you, that's a bear that's attacking. So that's, as people go out and get into the backcountry and grizzly bear country, understanding like the characteristics of what the bear is doing is really important because,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, we don't want to shoot bears that don't need to be shot.
For
I'm
sure.
all for shooting bears, but
Yeah. When in due time, right? But okay, so I've seen some videos of bears running. It's terrifying. For how big they are, they move so damn fast. But the question I want to ask you is like, how often are they not curious and scared? Like, 1 out of 10 you got to worry about. 1 out of 50 you got to worry about, or like how often when you run to a bear and it's aware of you, is there going to be an issue? And just anecdotal, from your personal experience evidence.
yeah, for sure. Probably 2 out of 10, maybe. Like, but mainly that is like, is there cubs with them?
Yeah.
If the bear is a solo bear with no cubs, typically they would just take off, and that's probably if it's a solo bear, no cubs, it's probably like 2 out of 50. If there's a mama bear with cubs, then that changes the dynamic. Where it's like
Yeah.
probably probably yeah, 2 out of 10. If it's a mama bear with cubs, you gotta just deal with it
Okay.
differently. If there's a mama bear with cubs and there's a mama bear with cubs, just don't even go in there, right? Just
Yeah.
do like a huge wide berth. Like don't even chance it because best case scenario, uh, last thing you want to do is DLP a mama with cubs. So
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense, man. Okay. Well, I don't know what other stories you got. Let me ask this: do you have any that are like different species or sketchy, but without a bear being involved? I'd love to hear something like that. If you have anything, if not, if then something else just pops in your mind, just throw a story at us. Doesn't matter.
yeah, for sure. So there was one time I was working for this guy that was honestly he's kind of a retard. Um,
Kind of.
but somehow he had a lot of money. So
Yeah.
he's got this
Was he
big
a
boat.
client or was he the
The outfitter.
outfitter? Okay, got it.
Yeah, he's the outfitter. This was back a while back ago. But so we taken a boat from Kodiak around Falls Pass and up to King Salmon for fishing. It's a big 70 something foot tender. And there was this was we no one was going out, right, because there was a storm coming in and we shouldn't have gone out. But the guy again was a retard. So we out and like the Kupanov Strait, it's like where Kodiak and the Alaska Peninsula
Okay.
is like known to be a very dangerous stretch of ground to go through. So that's where we find ourselves in is in that area when a storm's coming through. So I remember being in this huge boat, like 70 some boats, not a little boat, and being in these swells where you go down into the swell and the next swell is coming and you looking up at it. Like you can no longer see the horizons. The swell is way taller than that. And every now
God.
and then you'd have two swells that was like kind of stacked together and you'd come down and you'd hit the next one and the bow would like the splash would go up and over the crow's nest. And I'll send you a photo of how big this boat is to give you perspective. But just insane swells. So we're going through and like we fighting through the swells and you know we probably should have a few times gone down because sometimes like you're trying to walk the boat through these swells, right? Because you don't want to be at an angle, and sometimes like you're hitting them and like the boat's rocking like this, right? Like
Yeah.
the boat rocks and you're looking down. That's should be a flat floor. You're looking down at your buddy over there, and he's like way underneath you because that's how much of an angle you're at from that boat rocking. So luckily we didn't die. We make it through that storm. But I just remember it was just like it was a wild ride getting through that. And then that next day, because he after the storm went off, the guy I won't say his name, but the guy plotted the autopilot course, right? Because you can do that on a boat, and um, that evening, there's a few guys and we switch off a wheel watch, right? Well, that evening, I wake up because it's my turn to take Levi's spot, and I think Levi fell asleep. So I woke him up. I was like, "Hey, I got you." Uh, and anyways, when as soon as I take over, because I took over early because I got up early because I was kind of like worried about like what was going on, especially about that night before I couldn't sleep. So I got the wheel watch and I'm looking and look through my binos and I'm like, is that a freaking, is that a freaking rock like a few hundred yards up ahead? Like, something that looked like it was popping up. And I was like, what the hell? So I zoomed into the map and the guy plotted the course straight into this rock cropping that if I didn't catch it with the binos and zoom into the map, because then I was like, oh shit. So because instead of like having a big wheel, right, it's actually you could steer the boat with like this little
Yeah.
knob of like a CD player. So I dial it. We go around it, but literally plotted it right through that rock cropping. So if I wouldn't caught that or someone else didn't catch it, we all would have died, right? Because it's like 40-degree water.
Yeah.
So if you hit that raft, that rock, boat sinks. If we don't have time, we probably wouldn't have had time to get the life raft out and stuff in time. We go into that water. The the soul line's, a mile that way. We ain't swimming a mile in 40-degree water. So
God, yeah,
that
no
was
way.
yeah. So yeah, that was another time where you're like, dang, you get through things. Cause I was young at the time. I think I was probably 2021, something like that. I was younger at the time, and you just live in your alone, right? And you start alone, and if someone's a retard, say something like in a way, like don't let them be in charge of things,
You gotta
even
rely on each
if
other,
that
man.
might be
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Like, and even if the guy that you are working for is a retard, and it's in a dangerous environment, you got to figure out how to manage that. But you can't just trust that guy just because you're working for him,
Yeah.
because you can die quick. We're not that tough as a species. Pretty easy for us to get sent on to the next life. So we don't want
Right.
that to happen if
Yeah,
we
man.
can avoid it.
Even in hunting camp, like here in Colorado, much lower stakes than anything you're doing, right? But like, I don't let stupid people come to camp because I'm like, hey, you could do something dumb that get us all killed. Like it's lower stakes than a 70-foot boat off the coast of Alaska or camping out on Kodiak Island or whatever it is. So you got to surround yourself by people that are at a minimum competent. So that's a good story. I can't even imagine that storm you were telling me about in that big boat. That's like one of my biggest nightmares. Like I'm comfortable
Oh,
on boats. I've been on lots of boats in the ocean, in the Puget Sound, all over the country. But dude, big rolling
mm.
waves freak me out.
Big swells because
Yeah,
like you're helpless, right? You're just sitting there, can't sleep, can't do nothing. You're just getting rocked to death,
yeah.
and you're trying to do your best to keep the storm pointed in the right direction. But it's just
You just gotta wait it
it's
out.
it's
It
one of
sucks. Ugh.
yeah, it was wild. I was sending you a photo of the boat. That was one time I didn't really get any videos of the storm because I was like, oh boy. I think I might have one somewhere, but I for sure have a photo of the boat.
Yeah.
That was a wild ride.
I'm just glad to hear that something rattled you, Caleb, because I was starting to think you weren't a human being anymore. You're like, but grizzly bear, brown bear, 3 feet from my face. So finally, something made you go, "Oh, this is fucked." So that's I appreciate that you that you can feel the intensity of some of these situations that you've shared with us today, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, well, that's what, like the funny thing is like when people ask me like what, because some people will be like, well, what's the scariest thing? And everyone thinks it's bears, and I'm like, well, I mean, if a bear comes at you and you when you're in your tent, that is like really scary to me. But if
Yeah.
I'm up and I have my gun, I'm betting on me. Like I shoot a lot. Like I'm pretty good with my gun. I'm betting on me than the bear.
Yeah.
But if you're in a boat in a really big storm, or if you're in a plane and fog or something rolls in. It's scary. Like it's really scary. There's been a few times I've been in a plane and like clouds just closed up around us, and you just like thinking, oh, this is gonna be hard on my mom. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
you're like we're flying in the mountains, like we think that's the gap, but there could be a mountain there we can't see anything. That will make you like doesn't really make you. It doesn't make me panic, but it just makes me like, huh.
Yeah.
Not how I expected to die, but here we
Yeah.
go. We'll see
And
what
you got to
happens.
trust that guy. I assume you're not the pilot, or were you piloting?
No,
Yeah. So now
no, I
you're
wasn't the
taking your
pilot.
entire life and being like, this is the sketchiest shit I can think of. And that guy holds my hand or my life in his hands. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's a weird feeling. You're like, dang, see what
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah, man. Well, we're about up on time, Caleb. I can go longer if you want to, if you have another story that's come to mind and you want to share it. Otherwise, we can wrap things up, man. Your call.
Yeah, let's wrap them up, and then maybe we can do it again
Hell yeah.
at some point in the future,
Yeah,
and
I'd love to.
tell some more.
Perfect, man. Well, then
Absolutely.
let's do this. Why don't you share where the people can find you if you want them to? I don't know if you want to share your socials
100%.
or anything else that you're doing business wise that maybe people can support you. Now's the time.
100%. 100%. If people just want to, if they type in my name, it'll pop up I make hunting films sometimes. So if you just type in Caleb with the C and then Stillians is spelled Stillians, it should pull up everything that I got going on the old Googles and Instagram and that stuff. So
Perfect.
yeah, if you guys want to check out some of those videos and hunts and all that stuff, appreciate it.
Yeah, man. I'll make sure to put links to everything in the show notes. Make it really easy for everybody to find you. But Caleb, man, this was fun. It was 2 years in the making, but great stories, brother. I really appreciate it. You've got me rattled. I'm not going to bed anytime soon. I'll tell you that.
There you go. I hope not. It's in the middle of the day.
Yeah, that's also true. That's also true. All right, man. Well, thanks again. I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, man.
All right, guys. Thanks again for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. Got a couple new stories in the books. I really do appreciate Caleb for coming on the podcast. Couldn't have done it without him. Sorry it took so long to get those stories from him, guys. But we'll definitely have him back on. I feel like he's got a whole bunch of stories that we didn't even get to. We kind of just stayed basically in the brown bear realm for this episode. So Caleb, thank you again. Please, guys, check him out. I got links to everything in the show notes. Everything you need is right there. Then once again, whatever you're listening to us on, please give us a review. Helps us out a lot. Also share us with one person. And thank you, guys. Now get out there and make some stories of your own.